And she's like, yeah, you could only bring so much because you also had to like carry all of this like bulk canned food and stuff with you on the plane to take down there. And I'm like, why were you why would you haul canned food like
Why would you
halfway
bring it?
across the planet? She's like, I don't know. I said they had you carry canned food in your backpack. She's like, yeah, tons of it. Like it was so heavy.
It's a compliance
Just
test.
anything to avoid paying for something in the place where you're going. It's like,
I
hey,
know.
if you need anything, we got a grocery store down the street. Like, no thanks. We brought all the Vienna sausages and canned ham that we could fit in our backpacks.
Yeah, we'll just eat Bush's baked beans right out of the can cold all week instead of support a local economy. We'll just they're like locusts. They're more likely to devastate a local economy than to support it.
Yeah. Hello and welcome to Grown Up Christian. I'm Casey.
I'm Sam.
And I think, first of all, so it's July 2nd. I think there's a definite contrast between you and I. And I think there's no better indication of that to like the outside viewer than t-shirts.
Yeah.
You're rocking As Cities Burn, which definitely has more of a French vibe right now. And
It's French, huh?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's
Oh, yeah.
cities
I
are
get it.
burning.
Given everything that's going on in France. Yeah.
I'm rocking my These Colors Don't Run shirt from Walmart.
Yeah. No, that's
Which,
and it's very colorful, which is good because that way we can be sure that they are in fact not running. If it was like a black and white shirt, it would have just not had the same. It would have the same feel. What is on? You got an eagle.
Oh, it's got an eagle on there.
Spreading his butt
flying in
cheeks.
front of a. There's a little like a tribal design down here, which I like.
Oh yeah,
Adds
tribal designs
something.
are always necessary. Well, I can't see the tribal design though. Let me stand up.
Okay.
We got to stand up a little bit.
Just a little. It's tasteful.
Oh
tribal.
yeah, that would make a great tattoo. Someone saw that T-shirt and went immediately asked for it to be a tattoo that covered like their full upper arm.
Well, dude, it's like tribal tattoos are a little like cut off shirts. Like if you're a built dude with that takes care of himself, like a cut off shirt's fine. That's a perfectly valid look, depending on you don't want to wear that at Capitol Grill, but like in appropriate setting.
Yeah, like Tim Lambesis.
If you are like a dumpy white trash dude with a goatee sitting next to me in the airplane, like very cramped, and now I have to like lean up against your sweaty, clammy, bare arm because you wore a sleeveless shirt. Now it's a problem.
Yeah, I feel like exposed skin on an airplane is always a problem, no matter what you look like.
Yeah.
I'm very against exposed skin on an airplane. I think you should be required to wear long sleeves. You must wear socks. If you don't wear socks on an airplane, I just don't think there's room for you.
Yeah, I mean, everybody should be Pentecostal attire-wise on a plane.
Yeah, I'm not a prude unless I'm on an airplane, and then I think that's when I would like to make my feelings about dress unilaterally apply to everybody else. So I get that impulse that Christians have, but I only feel it on airplanes and not, not trying to orchestrate everybody's lives from the pulpit of a megachurch.
Yeah. Yeah. This is kind of your pull up your pants speech.
Yeah, it is. It's pull up your pants. It's my Bill Cosby moment, but not that moment. Different Bill Cosby moment. Dude, I keep thinking about how Bill Cosby's out of jail on a technicality, and I think that's what's going to happen with Trump. I think Trump's going to I think he's just going to take some of these charges and they're going to stick, but then there's going to be some little thing that pops up just like with Bill Cosby where it's like, oh, now he's out again. He's just out doing his shit.
He's not going to jail.
No, I don't think
stacking. They keep stacking charges on him, and like it's pretty. I mean, it would be more shocking than him winning the White House again if he was to end up actually going to jail.
You you think it'd be more shocking if he won the? Did you say more shocking if he won the White House than go
If
to
he
jail?
went to jail, than if
Oh,
he actually like won the White House again. Like
oh
he's more
yeah, I
likely to
agree.
end up, running us into the ground for a second term.
Yeah, I think we're very certainly going to end up with another Trump presidency. That's my finger on the pulse right now. I think, and it's not because he has just such a wide swath of support. He just has a strong base, and Biden, watching him give speeches is just like watching someone deep fake an open casket. It's like it looks fake. He looks corpsey. He's pumped full of like Botox or formaldehyde or
He
whatever it
had a
is.
bad week this week.
And
Between like coming out with like obvious like oxygen mask line
yeah,
like indents on his face,
yeah,
like they
he's
just
just
he's like a worn out tire that you're just trying to get another like 2 months out of before you have to replace it. So they just
it's
pump him up like once a day to get to work.
they have to use like the that bra sticky tape on his eyelids to like hold them open. it's,
Yeah.
it's just
Some
bad, and
people it
like
gives them the angular, like cheek the Kennedy cheekbones, and for him it just like keeps his eyes mostly open.
yeah, they have it's like they have he's like has this safety pin by his like cheekbones in order to like keep his face from falling off. He And I think what's so funny is like another thing that happened this week that's not helping him. A lot of the support he had, a lot of the momentum he had was from millennials, and even some on the leftist side of things because of like, uh, he had that slew of victories for a while. And I think he just thought he could just not do anything and ride those out until the election and people would still like him. But, um, obviously now, just the other day, his like the loan forgiveness for college debt or the partial loan forgiveness for college debt got struck down. And immediately I'm just like, what does this guy think? Like that, like I don't want to vote for him, but I feel like kind of this was the plan, is like to have it go nowhere so that way he could really try again down the road. And because he doesn't care enough, he doesn't really want to do it. But in 2 years, when he needs it during the election cycle, he can ride on this. And like when we're like actually coming up to election season, that's when I think we'll see like more of a push for this, so he can pretend like he fucking cared the entire time. But it's just everything is just strategy, right? Like it's hard to believe that a lot of these people give two shits about that, like what's actually going on. It's just like all re-election, everything's re-election campaign all the time is what it feels like.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. The thing with Biden too is that we've only really like people our age have only really known him in his twilight years, and it's like you just have this like in your mind he's this like nice old guy that's probably should step out of the way, but like he just kind of stays in, but he's just like he's a nice old man, but like he's kind of been a Washington insider scumbag his entire life, and like some of that's coming back to haunt him now. I
Yeah,
don't know.
nothing like having your entire voting record available to the public for people to want, but people don't care. And I feel like it gets to a point where like people just go, well, that was a long time ago, he's changed. Like if you want to believe that he's better or different now, you can say that like 30 years has made a good difference. But I don't know. I can't believe that they're running him. It's like it feels like they're just gonna have. It's like he's being Weekend at Bernie's right now. It's like they're
Well,
just
it's
trudging around this dead corpse and pretending like it's alive.
Yeah, and the typical like nobody but the chosen boy arguments have already started. Like
Yeah, yeah,
the Breaking Points had a clip from like Pod Save America this week where they're like, if you vote for anybody but Biden, like you're basically just voting for Trump. It's like,
yeah.
shut up.
I
We're not
know.
even there yet. Like we're not even there
Jumped
yet.
on that
Like,
early. Good
like
for
the
them.
chances of this guy even living another year and a half are insane. Like
I
much less
know.
4 years. give me a break.
I
Like,
know.
run somebody we can vote for. Just anybody with somewhat of a cleaner slate that stands for something, that's presenting something positive other than like, guess what? I'm not that guy. I don't know. This is like a tired argument, but I'm just so irritated that like the power structure is so important to them that they'll
Yeah.
run him again as opposed to like putting somebody else in the seat.
Yeah, someone who's maybe less like pliable to the whims of that structure, right? That's what it comes down to. Is Biden's gonna they? It's predictable. It's boring. They don't have to worry about him really shaking up the system. They don't have to worry. There's just nothing to worry about
It's like a
because they don't want to.
Dynamic. Like Dianne Feinstein's aides have been running her office for like the last however many years, since she could actually like remember her address.
Yeah,
So it's convenient to have a person like that because the people behind the scenes can kind of just do what they want.
yeah. I mean, even the college, like the debt forgiveness thing, is kind of a racket. And I'll take it. Of course I'll take it, but it just all these things feel like little band-aids that they do to prevent people from like the to prevent the other side of the political spectrum from storming the Capitol, right? Because it's like, oh, we'll just give you like $10,000 of debt forgiveness, so that way you can be happy for a year or two and not have to like think about how like you've lost 40% of your buying power in the market because your interest rates on a mortgage are 8% and houses are $600,000. It's like, like, who cares? Like, who cares
It's
about
true.
$10,000
And
when you can't afford a home ever?
it's debt that they own. Like the federal government owns it. And they like the thing I always laugh about is the fact that like, they bought all this college debt from these other institutions and stuff. They own almost all of it at this point. And then once in a while they come out and act like, "You know what? We're going to do something nice for you because we care about you and we want you to do well. And so, we're going to give you this little nugget." And it's like, "Why don't you just cut interest rates to zero on all this debt that you own? You could
Right.
do that right now, couldn't you? Like,
Which
couldn't we
is
make
they
that
have
happen?"
been. It has been zero since the pandemic. I haven't had to pay. Um, well, for federal loans. Some of mine are private. That's right. So I have a small one, but all my federal loans that I took out for my master's program, it's like I haven't been paying anything. I haven't been accruing interest on those, but that's going to start changing. I think sometime in the next I don't know, 3 to 6 months. They're whatever they did to the whole like stop payment, the whole no interest accrual is coming to an end because that was some like COVID relief bill that expires, and I can't. That's another thing. I'm sure we can't count on Biden to re up on that, because he
What
doesn't
kind of
care. Because he doesn't fucking care. Like it's just what do we? I mean, and then it's even funny that Supreme Court just knocks it down. Like, why do we listen to them? Why are we listening to the?
you wonder more and more every day
Like, what are we,
why they are important.
it's like they're like, well, unconstitutional, and you're like, yeah, but 85% of the population backs this idea, so like, shouldn't? And we're supposedly a democracy, a representative democracy, but still a democracy. It's like, doesn't that count for anything? Doesn't the will of the people? And it's so funny because it really is shows you that like they're like, well, it's like it's a failsafe. It's like it stops bad things from happening. So it's like, okay, so democracy is only important insofar as it lines up with the interests of the people who want to make the rules. So they're like, we love democracy, get out there, vote, it matters. And then they're like, well, the people want something we don't like, so we need to like, you know, find a way to put a stop to like actual democracy and not just like we support it when it conveniently lines up with our beliefs.
Yeah. Yeah, we support it other places, especially when it's somebody that we like that ends up in the seat.
Yeah.
We respect democracy and the will of people in other places, but we will put our finger on the scale and we'll
And I mean,
occasionally like put our thumb on somebody else.
yeah, I mean, they wanted to start a coup. We just like helped them. It wasn't like our thing, but like we just gave them a little bit of a nudge and a few $1 trillion. I mean,
Yeah. We just started 7 TV stations and put 50 NGOs in place to drum up support.
oh my
Oh
god,
boy, way out in the weeds.
yeah.
Um, what kind of private loans did you get? Like, did you lie your way into like a Wounded Warrior grant or something like that?
Yeah, it's the Stolen Valor Fund. The
Dude, I could write you a story for that.
yeah,
If you had to submit an essay or like a personal bio, I
dude.
could make something great.
Every single time I'm late on my loan payments, though, um, I get a call, and they're like, "Hey, you're 6 days late on your account. Just one," and then it's like, but they always have to ask you the same questions, like, just to make sure, has your address changed? It's like, no. Have you recently joined the military? It's like, no, they don't. Do they just let 35-year-old men join the military? That's not changing anytime. Can I just like indefinitely say that it will never change? Why do you have like the questions I have to ask every fucking time are it's like, I know why you're calling. Just cut to the chase where I go, I'm sorry, I forgot to pay it. I'll pay it online today. And you go, okay, well, mark your account down that you're going to pay it today. It's like, but we can't. They can't skip the pageantry. The amount of money they pay people to just make phone calls when people are late
To be an annoyance.
it's like, it has to be worth the cost. It's hard for me to imagine how that's true.
I wonder if it's like you look on the website for those companies and like the help wanted ad just says like stress position. This
Oh God.
position calls for you to create stress for other people so that they will cough up $30 of their 150 payment.
Yeah. Well, dude, because I used to work. Have I talked about working for the company Civic Development Group on the podcast? I don't remember if I have, but I was a
I don't think
telemarketer
so.
for a while, and it was like we had three scripts, and we would call about like one was for like EMT type shit, one was like a firefighter fund of some sort, and one was like a teddy bear drive for police, and all of these were scams. They were hired. This company was hired as basically to manage the fundraising for these things, but it would be like if you looked at the fine print, it was like a minimum of 5% would go to the organization, and the rest, like that they were raising money for, and the rest went to fund this fucking scam. And occasionally people would ask that, and you would say, well, a minimum of what's raised five is the minimum is like 5%, and people are like scream at you. They're like, you're stealing from the police. First of all, we're not even raising money for the police. This is like a teddy bear drive started by a former cop or some shit like that. It's all masked in like this language of like trying to sound like you're calling on behalf of the police or actual fire department, and it's a complete scam. But after doing that for a while, like it's like you have your script on your screen, and then based on what people say, you have a new script, and based on what they say to that, you have a new script, and you have to try at least 3 times to get them to donate. And you're like, you just drop the dollar amount every time, and then you usually get yelled at, or if you don't get yelled at, it's because you're talking to like an old lady who donates every year and just gives gets tired of talking to you and ends up giving you $20 or something.
So you
But
just scammed old people
yeah.
out of
Oh,
their
fuck
money?
yeah. Yeah. It was awful. I mean, I need to get by, man. But I felt
Is that kind
truly
of what you
guilty
tell
about that.
yourself?
Yeah, that's exactly what I tell
I'm
myself.
just following orders.
Yeah.
Never
I'm a
heard that before.
real rank and file type.
The Tell AmeriCorps Nuremberg.
Yeah. Well,
That's what you're gonna say.
and it was gross there, man. I mean, everyone there was like out on parole and shit too. And like we had some formerly violent criminals just sitting next to you bragging about how they pushed somebody in front of a bus one day. And then like there's like this big public announcement to tell people they need to stop flicking their boogers on the wall next to the urinals. It was the worst place I had ever worked.
Dude, oh man.
But
That is
anyway,
a
my
for
point
the
was
ladies in the audience,
I know
every urinal, there's boogers all over the wall in front of it. If it doesn't matter if the building is opened 2 weeks ago. If you're standing at a urinal and you look close enough,
you'll
there's a
find the
booger
booger.
on the wall every
Yeah,
time.
it's wild. My point of all of this was that there's the script for telemarketing, and I hear the script whenever they call, and I feel like I'm kinder to telemarketers now just because it was awful. It's awful doing that job, And it is funny to fuck with them sometimes, of course, everyone has to do that, but I would just to give them, like, that moment, like, 'cause you have to go through the script, and if you got someone nice on the phone, it made you, like, less well, like, ready to jump out that 3rd story window just because that was 5 minutes of, like, I can just talk and not have to worry about getting, like, verbally abused. So, I'll just like, "No, I'm sorry, I'm not interested," and they're like, "Alright, well, how about," and then I'm like, "Oh, no, I appreciate it, but, still not interested." And it's like, I'll let 'em ride it. I feel like you can tell when people need it. You hear the trembling in their voice.
Oh yeah, I listened to a whole timeshare pitch from
Yeah, that's
Hilton
right.
the other day.
Oh,
It was
this is a
like,
new one. You've listened to a couple of timeshare pitches.
oh yeah, well, I'll never go sit through one again, but they called me on my cell phone,
Oh,
and the lady was nice, and so I listened to it, but it was like, they want you to come to Las Vegas for like 4 days or whatever, and,
yeah, yeah.
"Oh, you just have to go to this presentation, it's an hour and a half, and it's only $200," you know? But I just kept it like, "No, I am never doing this again. I'm absolutely never doing it." "Well, what if it was only $100? Like, what if I just talked to my manager and they can take it
Yeah,
down?" By the time
that's
it
the move.
by the time it was done, it was like, "It's $200 today, but if you sit through the pitch in Las Vegas, we'll give you your $200 back as like a Visa gift card."
What a
Just like,
solid pitch.
there's absolutely not. There's no way I'm ever doing that again.
I know, and it's funny, they're like, this is really the best deal. We're just giving away money." Hard to argue with that, right? It's like oh my god.
You
And then
have
they
to
just
admire, like, their success rate, though.
yeah, yeah.
Like, they
It's
can do that because they're excellent at making that pitch. As somebody who's in sales, like, I appreciate some of the technique, but I'm just never doing it again, ever, ever.
yeah.
And you
Christianity
shouldn't
learned a
either.
lot from timeshare salesmen. Like Christians would go like people who want to start. It should be a requirement for people who want to start churches to have to go sit through timeshare pitches just to pick up on the tactics.
It'd be smart to. Speaking of Christian timeshare salesmen, are you ready to talk about a real cool guy?
Oh yeah, We love cool guys on this podcast.
This is Ron Luce, is who we're talking about today. I assume that's how his name is pronounced. It's Luce.
Yeah, that could be Lucy. Do we have a pronunciation? When they like write out how to pronounce their names.
Well, not in this case, or at least in the book here.
I'm looking him
But
up online. He's alive. He's 61 years old. Tell me about Ron Luce.
so,
Lucy.
so
Luce.
he's the founder and president of Teen Mania Ministries, which is
Teen Mania.
was a big deal. I think it's gone now.
Yeah, at least I know a lot of their ministries are gone. Oh yeah. Yeah, yeah. It looks like
They filed for bankruptcy.
2015 they filed chapter 7 bankruptcy and closed the ministry permanently.
Yeah. They had a bunch of different things that they did, one of which is a show favorite, Acquire the Fire.
Yeah, we love that. I miss stuff like that. I want to reattend like a youth event from this side of things. It would be really hard to stomach probably, but I think it'd be worth it.
I'm far enough away now that like I think I could enjoy just going and sitting through one of these things.
That's what we should do. We got to find like one of those big ones. Some at some point between our locations. There's probably a lot more out your way, to be
Meet
honest.
up and go to C Spot Rock in like Baton Rouge or something.
Yeah, yeah.
So okay, so here's a little history on Ron. It says Luce became involved in drug and alcohol abuse while living with his father. Luce was taken in by a pastor under whose roof he became a Christian. He then committed his life to evangelizing and training young people. He received his bachelor's degree in psychology and theology from Oral Roberts University and his master's in counseling psychology from the University of Tulsa. In 2002, U.S. President George W. Bush appointed him to the White House Advisory Commission on Drug Free Communities.
No way. I didn't realize he had a position under old Bushy Bush.
Yeah, served until 2004 and then joined the board of trustees of Oral Roberts University in January of 2008. And I think what's so funny about some of the, like, this guy of all people was on a presidential advisory commissions on drugs. Like, what?
What?
Why?
Right.
Why not anybody
What
else?
credentials does he have? Other than he used to take a lot of them. Like, well, he
Yeah.
learned from experience, why you shouldn't do that. So who else are we going to listen to? I mean, not a board certified psychologist or addiction specialist, or, we'll just take the Christian who used to do them before he got radically saved and gave them up and thinks that's the solution for everybody else.
Now, whenever we talk about one of these people, like I just Google their name and scandal just to see what comes up. It's fun. It works so well. And the thing that came up immediately was an article from the Christian Post. This is from October 5th, 2015. It says arrest warrant issued for Teen Mania founder Ron Luce and Compassion International's lawsuit. Uh,
Compassion International's lawsuit against Teen Mania.
yep.
All right.
And he had an arrest warrant out for him as a result of this. It says a court in Colorado has issued an arrest warrant for Teen Mania Ministries founder Ron Luce after he failed to appear at a hearing related to a lawsuit filed by Compassion International seeking a $174,000 judgment.
What did he
So,
do? Was he supposed to give them money through his like ministry? Was that like he raised money for them and they just never wrote the check? I
well,
also
it's
I
so
love
it
when
says,
sorry, I
oh,
love when people get like when they have an arrest warrant out simply because they didn't show up to court. Like that's not hard. You show up to court and you won't like you're gonna have to do this. Like not showing up to court has never gotten somebody out of what they're dealing with. So it's like, why wouldn't you just be there? It doesn't that one blows my mind. Getting arrested because you didn't show up to court.
yeah, unless you're gonna L. Ron Hubbard it onto a yacht and just like take off to Morocco or something
Yeah,
like
just
that.
hang out
Like
in
you should
international
probably just
waters.
show up to court in your big shoulder padded, double breasted sport coat.
Yeah, that or John McAfee it and moves to some tropical compound where you basically hold people hostage.
Found your next ministry, Blackwater.
Yeah.
It says Compassion International filed the complaint last November after Teen Mania, which has reportedly been facing severe financial issues, canceled some of its weekend Acquire the Fire events, for which Compassion had paid for stage time to make appeals for attendees to sponsor needy children. Compassion claims Teen Mania hasn't refunded the money.
Okay. So they took their money and then they closed up shop and now they're supposed to get it refunded. I don't know how that works with filing for bankruptcy too. I think that's people try to do that to get out of paying back certain things. Um, but there's a
Yeah.
priority list for bankruptcy payments. I don't know if nonprofits are high on that list, but I'm pretty sure people who maybe own some of your assets are, like banks and shit. They'll get their bag first before any nonprofit sees anything. The last company that I worked for, and I don't really have a problem talking about how I feel about them now that I don't work for them, but they filed for Chapter 11 during the pandemic, and I and plenty of others didn't think they really needed to. It was just a convenient move to not pay back everyone we were in debt to.
It was strategic.
Yeah, and I find that game very interesting because it was hell too. Like accounting, like I'm surprised they didn't all just like you know mass suicide or some shit like that, like in the office just to make a point. It was they went everyone who worked on that side of things really did go through hell. Um, Trying to reconcile the books afterwards up to like 2 years after we were still dealing with it and it's a lot. It's not just like a reset button that goes smoothly, but it made us a lot of money and the people who were inconvenienced by it were the ones that you know didn't have the last the people who owned it were certainly inconvenienced by it, but it's a lot more helpful when like you're paying other people to manage it for you. Like nobody knows how to manage their way through bankruptcy. You hire someone who can help you do that. You I don't know. It was insane, and it felt like a joke, and it felt like unethical way to just, um, we bought a bunch of shit pre-pandemic, and then you file for bankruptcy, and we had a lot of our vendors like take away all of the discounts and everything. Like it hurt our relationships with a lot of them, and they take away your discount, and they go, so we might not be able to get our $500,000 back from you, but what we will do is we will eliminate your discount, and you will only get that discount again when the amount that you've lost to us without that discount equals what you owed us before. And it's like, it doesn't help. It didn't end up helping in a lot of ways, just because that's what most vendors did. They just took away your discount until they made back their money. And
Yeah.
so now you have less of a return on everything you're selling. It's just,
It seems like a bit of a financial shell game a lot of times.
yeah, for sure.
Sucks for the end the companies that sell to you. I mean, that's where it really blows. That was really bad during like the when GM and those companies filed for
Yeah, yeah.
bankruptcy back in the late 2000s, cuz there's I mean, growing up around like Detroit, mid-Michigan, there's just tons of like machine shops that make it was like these guys make this whole machine shop makes like door handles for GM. And now like their entire business model is, in peril because they filed for bankruptcy and they don't know if they're going to get their money back that they are owed. And
Yeah.
it was a mess.
Yeah.
Definitely it throttled the economy in Michigan, that's for sure. Well, I didn't have time to really dive deep into this. I was really trying to figure out if there was any accusations about where Teen Mania's money went. I mean, it sounds like they had a lot of different irons in the fire between, acquire the fire, and then you read off a list of like other ones that they other
Yeah.
ministries that they had.
They had 6 other ministries. And let's just, without actually knowing what they are, before I tell you what they are, if I even do, um, I think you could probably make a pretty good guess. And I think maybe some of the guesses we could have are maybe even more interesting than the ministries themselves. So obviously, acquire the fire. Everybody knows that one. We've talked about that quite a bit. I do think it's funny, that it says frequent when it talking about acquire the fire. It says frequent use of words such as battle, enemy, soldier, foes, and warfare, accompanied by displays of military imagery. It's like, what is this for? They probably got funding from the military too. So so then they had global expeditions. Oh, that seems fairly obvious, but go ahead and make your guess.
Hmm. Well, I would imagine that involves sending groups of teens to faraway places where they stay in, by comparison, a very opulent place compared to the locals. They do minimal labor, and then they go home having basically accomplished nothing and giving nothing to the local economy.
Yeah, I think you pretty much nailed it. Young people would go to, it was like 1 to 8 week missions trips throughout the United States and overseas. Global Expeditions reports having sent 67,783 missionaries on the field to 69 countries, and has documented one 1,324,637 reported decisions for Christ.
Wow,
That's a
good
good
for
return
them.
on
Good for
investment.
everybody.
67,000 people were able to convert 1.3 million. So,
You know what's funny about that is like talking about like the economies and stuff of these countries and places where they do mission trips. So April went on a big missions trip to Guatemala when she was in like early high school, and we were talking about it the other day, and she's like, "Yeah, you could only bring it was with teen missions, and you could only bring like I don't know X number of pounds worth of stuff with you." Because you had to carry like they had like these big military duffel bags that the kids all had to carry through the airport and stuff.
okay.
And she's like, yeah, you could only bring so much because you also had to like carry all of this like bulk canned food and stuff with you on the plane to take down there. And I'm like, why were you why would you haul canned food? Like
Why would you
halfway
bring it?
across the planet. She's like, I don't know. I said, they had you carry canned food in your backpack. She's like, yeah, tons of it. Like it was so heavy.
It's a compliance
Just
test.
anything to avoid paying for something in the place where you're going. It's like,
I
hey,
know.
if you need anything, we got a grocery store down the street. Like, no thanks. We brought all the Vienna sausages and canned ham that we could fit in our backpacks.
Yeah, we'll just eat Bush's baked beans right out of the can colds all week instead of support a local economy. We'll just they're like locusts. They're more likely to devastate a local economy than to support it.
Yeah. Like really annoying locusts coming into your community.
They're just locusts in modest tankinis and t-shirts at the beach. It's
Doing a bunch of construction work that you'll have to redo in 2 years.
yeah. Building a deck that they'll never know if and when it collapsed. It's like they'll never know the lives that they've stolen, and it's like you might have converted 1.3 million to Christ, but 1.5 million have died due to fallen architecture work done by youth groups. But at least they went to heaven when they died, and that's the most important part.
That's true. That's all that matters.
They also had Honor Academy, which is honestly even better than I thought it was going to be. I thought Honor Academy, my guess is that it was just like uh, kind of like a schooling program. Like you go to learn like uh, apologetics or something like that. Because I did an apologetics camp at one point and I loved it. But Honor Academy, it just seems like where you'd go to learn how to do good Christian shit. But it's kind of like hones in on some of our favorite things to make fun of Christian groups for. Just free teen labor. That's amazing.
Nice.
Interns would perform most of the day-to-day functions of the different ministry programs through ministry placements. You would go after high school or in college, and in order to participate in Honor Academy, individuals were required to raise their own financial support, which would like range from $650 to $850 a month, depending on the specific program.
You have to
But
pay to be there and work.
you had to pay to do the free labor for them that they couldn't do on their own. And but don't worry, because the funds were tax deductible if you were
Oh,
donating
good.
to the ministry.
Well, you can surely see how this organization went bankrupt, with all of these expenditures.
These funds were tax deductible contributions directly to the ministry and were also non-refundable.
Perfect. Yeah, somebody should have told Compassion International.
Like it was in the mid 2000s, they had nearly 1,000 participants a year, and they would it was 7-figure profits for Teen Mania. But numbers did continue to decline as people realized that they were part of a scheme, and it's hard to keep the wheels running smoothly on your unpaid ministries when you don't have poor 18 and 19-year-old kids to take advantage of.
Yeah. Is there any indication of where the term academy came in, or is it just marketing?
It's just marketing. So whatever the academy part, it's like whatever their ministry programs are, you would, I'm guessing, want to learn how to do you're just learning how to do the day-to-day functions. That's kind of like an academy, right?
Interesting.
It's
What was the other? There was another one that you read that was like battle something or other, right?
yeah, so there's 3 more, but one of them was Battle Cry campaign, which is like that's for people. I feel like without knowing anything about it, it's like people who like read Every Young Man, not Every Young Man's Battle. What's the one? That one was terrible. What's the one that was like all about like running barefoot through the woods? Do you remember that book? Wild at
Mm,
Heart. Wild at Heart. We need to find
oh
that book and take a dump on it because that one swept through Liberty University. Did anyone try to convince you to read that when you were there?
no, I didn't spend a lot of time talking about books
Yeah.
at college.
Or God, or going to any of the things that we were supposed to go to that
You were
required you to
my
talk about them.
you were my only outlet for Jesus speak.
Yeah. No, Wild at Heart was like barefoot. I feel like it was like encouraged like all like just running and playing in the woods and typical guy shit. But there's also another book
Grounding.
that was going on at the time. I think I'm confusing that and another book that came out at the same time that basically was like a guy wrote a whole book about how you should run in bare feet, which resulted in a bunch of people fucking up their feet like 5 years later. It
I
was
love the
all like
idea of a devotional book that talks about like grounding and then like sunning your perineum or whatever.
yeah. It's like the whole book, the premise was like, well, I mean, our feet are perfectly designed by God, and we didn't used to need shoes. And it's like people have been putting leather underneath their feet since they fucking first skinned an animal because they stepped on something that hurt them. And it's like, yeah, you don't need clothes, you don't need shirts, you don't. There's a lot of things you don't need, and human ingenuity just tells you that you can make things better for yourself by just you know noticing a problem you had and figuring out how to fix it.
Yeah. What I don't remember what that condition is that people get in their feet from wearing like those barefoot shoes, the five finger shoes or
Oh
whatever.
yeah, the what the fuck are those called? The place that manufactures them is in the next town from me.
Well, it's by far the coolest shoes ever made.
Yeah. But battle cry, it also sounds like tough mutters for Christians. um I don't let's see, it was oh, this one's it was politically motivated. It was primarily sought to influence American and Canadian social and political culture. Major backers. Oh yeah, these some heavy hitters. Really, you could tell exactly what this is about based on the backers here. But Joyce Meyer, Chuck Colson, Pat Robertson, Josh McDowell, and Jack Hayford.
Hmm.
So some big names with some clear agendas. Then they had the other two. They just had Extreme Camps and School of Worship. Extreme Camps was an annual series of summer camps.
It was a place to jump on the blob and get molested.
Yeah, yes, that's it. And then they had all the typical activities that bring everybody out, as like your ropes course, your paintball arenas, your swimming hole that of course it's divided, there's no co-ed swimming together, which is
You want to talk about the biggest scam ever? Ropes courses.
yeah.
They seem like they'll be fun and they're not fun. It's basically just waiting in line for people to stare up at your like stunted Johnson in a harness, poking out the bottom of your shorts, and then you slow walk across like a net in the air.
Yeah.
That's it. It sucks. It always looks like it's going to be so fun, and then it's lame.
Yeah,
But
it's
I have
like,
very strong feelings about having to wear a harness in front of people.
oh dude, it was always so awkward when you had to wear a harness and it would just like roll your junk up in like into a triangle, and like you're like everyone, I feel like it just everyone was looking at your like that bunch, that pants, that your bunched up khakis, uh, just surrounding your dick and balls. You're like,
It
this is
turns
gross.
any pair of pants into pleated pants.
Yeah.
You just got the big like gooch pocket. Yeah, there's a criticisms part on Wikipedia, and the top one says militant statements.
Oh yeah, that seems to coincide well with their like their military language, right?
Yeah, it says some of his statements include, "This is war, and Jesus invites us to get into the action, telling us that the violent, the quote, forceful ones, will lay hold of the kingdom." At a Cleveland Acquire the Fire event, he said, "The devil hates us, and we got to be ready to fight and not be these passive little lukewarm, namby-pamby, kumbaya, thumb-sucking babies that call themselves Christians. Jesus, he got mad. I want an attacking church."
I I truly have always had a hard time understanding that lane of Christianity, like the battle cry war language of like it's like it just doesn't seem right. especially call it like, oh, the thumbs. Like, who are the thumb sucking Christians? Who are the thumb sucking baby Christians? The ones who like they don't want to like preach fire and brimstone on a street corner. They don't want to like yell at you to get right with God. Like,
Seventh-day Adventists
yeah, yeah,
eating veggies and not going to war.
yeah. Vegan Christians. Ugh, gross. I don't know. I just there was
It's motivational.
it is,
That's all it is.
and
It's like,
that's language learned from I mean, the military language is. It's just like why people end up like signing up for the military after they watch like a cool recruiting video where they think they're gonna essentially play Call of Duty in real life.
yeah, it's everything's like that. Every sales conference is the same, you know. It's like every dude that wakes up in the morning and turns on Jocko Willink, tells stories about being in Iraq so that he can go, work the perfume counter at Macy's.
Right? Yeah, just to like get like through the like you get those like fantasies of I probably could do that. It's like how everyone thinks that like at the turn of the season it gets warm. um you're like, if I really committed to it, like I could be in the best shape of my life in like the next 8 weeks. It's like everyone's like tells themselves that they could do something like that, and I do it. I mean, I'm already like it gets warmer, I'm like, I'm gonna have to like now I'm wearing like t-shirts and not sweatshirts anymore, and I'm filling out my t-shirts a little bit more because that just keeps happening as you get older, I guess. And I'm like, I need to start going for a run. I got to start exercising. I'm 35. I just fucking turned 35. I 35 could be the year where I'm in the best shape of my life. And I've said that every year since 25. So
Yeah,
I'm
me
on
too.
a 10-year plan maybe to get there. Maybe. So now I might just kick the can down the road a little bit more and be like, best shape of my life by 40. I'll turn 40, have a nice gray beard, and I'll be in the best shape of my life.
I was thinking about it yesterday, and that whole like, I forget who was the author when that they were talking, but there was that thing where somebody was like, can you write a compelling story in one sentence? And he says like, for sale, baby shoes never worn. You know,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think I
yeah.
think I had one of those moments yesterday where like I was thinking, God, is there anything more like unstated depressing thing than just like donating workout shirts that you're too fat for to Salvation Army?
Yeah.
Just like, oh God.
It sucks. It's not. It just feels like a waste of money too. I feel like I'm just so cheap. My biggest motivation for not changing clothes sizes. I hate shopping. I just I'm a simple guy. And when I have to buy new things for myself, it makes me upset. And I would rather just wear the same three things every day. What I should have done is become one of those people who only wears like black t-shirts. You have like eight
That's
black
not a bad
t-shirts,
route.
and everyone sees you always wearing the same thing, and it's weird for a little while, and then they get used to it. It's just I feel like that would have been a better direction for me to go in. It's not too late. I might
It's
I
the
might just get there eventually. I do it with pants. I have two pairs of pants.
it's like the Dexter's Lab route,
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
or Steve Jobs, one or the other.
Yeah. I honestly, it's the route of any real genius. They go, I'm so smart, I can't allow any of my brain power to be occupied by something as pedantic as picking out clothes.
Yeah, it's not that I don't like this because I'm, insecure and it makes me uncomfortable. It's that I'm above it.
Yeah. It's the same logic as like eating the same thing every day for lunch for 15 years, which I
Yeah.
probably would do just out of convenience too.
Well, yeah. I So the reason that we got on to Mr. Luce in the first place is
Mr.
because I
Loosey
have
Goosey.
I have like this ever expanding, it's kind of getting to be an annoyance at this point, but like when I'm at like a yard sale or a thrift store and I see a book that I'm like, that's got some crazy stuff in it, I bet you. Like I'll pay $1 for it or
Yeah.
whatever. And I was looking at these this week, and I think we may have talked about this book before, but it's called 10 Challenges of a World Changer.
Oh, hell yeah.
And it's geared towards kids. It has a lot of clip art. So you can see here that like a good white boy is wrestling over a stretched out globe with a presumably evil, possibly Asian boy
Yeah.
in this clip art.
What year is that book written?
Oh boy, let's see. Let's see. Copyright 1995.
Okay. So that was
This,
still in the era of like,
this is
uh,
pre-tribulation.
yeah, yeah. It's still in the era of, racist depictions of other ethnicities.
Yeah, and this was a person who, he succumbed to the pitch. It says Robert W. Christensen, Acquire the Fire, 1995, Hutchinson, Kansas. So I guess Robert must have
That's right
memorized
down
this
the,
and
that's
didn't
right.
need it anymore.
Yeah, that's right down the street from you.
Yeah, that's like an hour from here. It's not that far.
I'm
Um,
glad it stayed local. I'm glad the book stayed local and can just affect people on a local level.
I wish there was a price tag on this. I would love to know what he paid for this at Acquire the Fire.
Yeah, it doesn't say on the back, huh? It must. So it's not like a real like.
Oh, it says $7.99
Okay,
US. I'm surprised that they even let him
adjusted
put that
for
on the
inflation
back.
though. I mean, that's what $15 today.
Yeah, probably. $7.99 was like a monthly car payment at the time. That was your monthly payment on your 92 Eagle Talon.
It was at least that layaway payment on a new pair of Dockers.
Okay, so this is divided up into weeks. It's a 13-week book. Okay, week 1, a call to arms. Week 2, world changers in the Bible. And then once you get into week 3, it's like a series of challenges.
It was week
Um,
2. I'm guessing Paul is the top of that list. I bet Paul like is higher up that list than Jesus.
yeah, well, I mean, what did Jesus really do?
Not much. I mean, he was only
Oh,
alive for
it's got
3
them
years.
listed. Okay, so it's done by day. Day 1, Daniel, keep your quiet times. Day 2, David,
That's like,
worship.
keep your quiet times.
Why
I
is
wish more
David
people would
worship?
keep their fucking quiet times.
I know. Like here, dude, your joke about Cracker Barrel got me hard the other day.
Yeah.
Silent prayers would eliminate like 80% of conversations at Cracker Barrel.
Yeah.
Day 3, Lydia, keep an open heart to the things of God.
I like that they put some women in. And so early on in the days. I mean, they didn't wait till the end to get to them. And Lydia is certainly one of the go-tos that everyone thinks of, right?
Mm-hmm.
Lydia. Of all the women in the Bible, Lydia is the one that for what's Lydia's specialty? What is it?
She kept an open mind to the things of God's.
Yeah, wow.
Her story is in Acts 16:11 through 15.
She has 4 verses.
And she is one of the 14 women with names in the Bible.
Yeah, she gets 4 verses. And that's clearly they just like add her in. Like, why not Ruth? She has a whole book of the Bible, but you go with Lydia, who gets 4 verses in Acts.
Yep.
Maybe Ruth is on this list, though. I shouldn't jump the gun.
They forced Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego make no compromise, which
They
is a
love
good
that.
rule for life.
Yeah,
Don't
absolutely
compromise
no
ever.
compromise is yeah. It gets you. It
Be
gets us far.
confident that you are correct 100% of the time and offer no quarter to your enemies,
Yeah.
which is anyone who disagrees with you. Day 5, this one's for you. Timothy, have a servant's heart.
Ooh. Well, that's different. Timothy. Is this Timothy in Acts, in the book of Acts?
Timothy was a young man who grabbed a hold of God and served him every chance he had. Yep. Acts
Yeah.
17, 13 through
So
15.
different than the Timothy. Well, because we yeah.
They're the same. They're not the same Timothy.
Well, Maybe. But as we've discussed, Paul did not write the book of Timothy, presumably to Timothy. It's all just forgeries and frauds. You just like they literally have like so many of the books are just like even books that didn't get canonized, like the Gospel of Thomas. It's like there's all these like books that are written that they just grab names from like the from the Book of Acts or the Gospels, and they go, "I'm this person writing to these people that I definitely knew back at this time." Yeah, yeah,
Hey, it's me.
yeah, it's me.
Definitely me, and not lying.
Yeah.
Day 6 is Esther. Have a heart of compassion. What I do like that they compress these people down into like one little catchphrase.
Yeah.
Like Joseph, he's day 7. It says, "Keep your dream alive in your heart."
Oh my God. Is Abraham on there for just faith, just all encompassing faith?
Who, Abraham?
Yeah.
No, just those 7.
Wow.
That takes you through your week.
All right. Well,
Let's see. The character trait I want you to get your heart locked into as a result of studying Joseph's life is this: Joseph had a dream that wouldn't die. To do something great for God, you have to have a dream that will not die. It's not arrogant to have a desire to do something great for God. Doing something great in the kingdom of God means you're serving other people. You're not getting arrogant, building a name for yourself, but you have a dream to change the world and make it more like God wants it. It's not
ooh,
arrogant to dream a
that
dream for God.
that language is a little terrifying. You have the to change the world the way God wants it. That's why we're in the political landscape that we're in right now. That's all that's the language. It's like we need to take our beliefs and practices and force them on everybody else because that's how God wants it. Especially when it comes to the gays.
Mhm. Yeah, so then it's just a series of challenges each week, like
These are good. We
commit
should do
your
these.
mind to God, commit to systematic Bible study. I was looking at this one. Challenge 4, week 6 is commit to an accountability friendship. And
Those
it
are
had
always honest and go well.
the person who had this book underlined a lot of sections in it too, so it's kind of fun to see which ones they
Yeah,
thought.
it's like getting to know them on a more intimate level. Are there like is it in the margins? Did he talk about you know some of his confessions to his friends or underline? Is there anything about? I'm sure there's like uh avoiding sexual sin that's got like 3 underlines.
Oh yeah. Well, there's a whole I think it's like God, what's the challenge about
Don't
dating?
jerk off. That's the challenge. Is just go a full week without jerking off.
Commit to holy courtship instead of dating.
Oh my god, what a useless challenge!
Challenge 10 is commit to go on a mission trip while you're a teen.
It's like Christian most extreme elimination challenge. It's like useless, worthless challenges that get you nowhere and have no advantage that you can't even really you don't even really prep for. You're just
I was reading one earlier that was like commit to your youth group in church. And it was saying like it was basically like you water it down and it's like not saying that sports and other activities aren't good. But if they interfere with youth group or church, you need to quit. Or you
yeah.
can go to you can go to to the coach and tell him that you would like to be involved when your church and youth group allows you to. And it said something along the lines of like that's a great way to make a statement about your faith.
It's a great way to make a statement that you are in a cult and you need their permission to do anything fun.
Yeah, can you imagine like you're a guy who's or a lady who's coaching a kid's team, right? You're kind of doing it out of the goodness of your heart. I mean, maybe it's your career, but more than likely, it's you're there to help out because you like your kid plays and you think it's important that kids have sports and stuff and you're
Yeah.
trying to organize this team and pick everything and deal with angry parents and like the kids who are doing it halfway and the kids who are actually like have their head in the game and blah blah blah. You got all these other considerations and then this kid comes up to you and they're like, I would like to play, but I'm not available Wednesdays, Thursdays, and Sunday nights because I have made a commitment to my youth group. um, can I play? And you're just like, so now I get to balance all of this crap for you. Like,
Yeah.
it's
It's
so arrogant.
Dude, I remember that, like, the sports families in church kind of getting, like, they were kind of looked down upon because it's like if they had games on Sundays, and like a lot of them were, a lot of sports happen Sunday morning. You have like all these sports, and you have 2 days a week to make them work for all families. And Sunday is usually the best day for a lot of people. So it's like, well, they have hockey practice or on whatever on Sundays. And I just remember like some families not being in church a lot, and like that coming up as a conversation at home sometimes, or like it was always like passive aggressive, but the undertone was that they were like choosing sports over leading their family correctly, spiritually, and that they were like lacking on that. And
Yeah.
I was super judgmental towards those kinds of people for a while. And then like, cause my wife's family, they were big sports people, and like my wife started coming to church. That's how we met. But like her dad was always a coach. Her brothers were in baseball. They all like, there was a lot going on Sundays, and they did sports stuff on Sunday all the time. Um, and she kind of had the same thing. It's like when she started getting back into like really like going to, made her own commitment to go to church and do her, like, made her own commitment to Christ and all that shit. You're like, even you start to have those conversations. Well, they really haven't, because they've been doing like sports for so long, and it doesn't take long before you're just passive aggressively thinking and pointing out that like that they weren't willing to make the sacrifice for the thing that ultimately matters.
Well, that's kind of like one of the things in this book is you start reading through like you need to commit to your youth group. You need to, submit to your youth pastor was like a whole section in there.
And that's
Then
weird. Youth pastors should have absolutely little to no authority over you. You're a fucking kid.
right.
Like,
You're a youth pastor. The extent of your authority is you get to pick the pizza toppings when you order it in on Wednesday night. That's it.
in what pervy games you make horny kids play. That's it.
Which Lord of the Rings movie you're gonna ruin this week?
Yeah. I'll submit to the authority of water balloon fights. That, that's it.
Yeah, but I don't know, this whole section about accountability partners and friends and stuff. It's like clearly just making this case for like why this you're a kid. This dominates everything in your life.
And it's
Everything
entirely make
outside
believe.
of
It's
this
based on nothing. It's like it's based on make believe and circulatory reasoning. That's it.
this whole like this. I mean, yeah, like the Bible aside, like this whole thing is just like this loosely patched together worldview that's like
Yeah.
extrapolated from thousands of years old texts and then put into book form in an attempt to like control 14-year-olds.
And
It's
like,
so
yeah,
stupid.
and it's like a few verses cherry picked, ripped and like out of any original context that they had. Not to mention a conversation about whether or not the original context is even like applicable or valuable for to like to transpose onto a modern belief system. It's it's just, yeah. It's literally it's like if you placed all authority on an issue of People magazine, and because you placed all authority on an issue of People magazine, you just like took out random sentences and words and strung it together like a ransom note and go, this is how we're supposed to live our lives. And I did that because I took all these words from the thing that I say has authority, and it's just nonsense. It's like that's no more relevant to my life than some asshole who cherry picked 13 verses and tried to make you, or 13 like, yeah, verses, chapters, concepts, whatever, from this large book, uh and say, this is how you need to live your life for the rest of it, and this is the
Everything
challenge.
lines up behind these principles
Yeah, it's so wild.
that I've categorized and prioritized.
It's
I
goofy.
This stuff though is like the some of the biggest complaints I have about it that still like get on my nerves is like the stress that it puts on kids and their relationships, you know? 'Cause I mean dating's a whole other thing, right? But like this is a part this is your closest friends must be on fire for God. It says, as you get serious about really changing the world, you're going to have to limit the amount of time you spend with people who are of the world. The most important reason for you to spend time with people who aren't saved is to help them get saved and let God change their lives. You can strike up an accountability friendship only with someone who loves God with all his heart and who's going to hold you to the same thing. If you've been hanging around people who aren't saved, who don't love God with all of their hearts, or who are lukewarm, you may have to change your friends. You may have to tell them you can't hang out with them anymore.
Oh my god. That's crazy.
It's
It
just it's just this is just poisonous. This is so
yeah.
bad for
It's like
somebody.
I can only hang out with you insofar as you change your mind to believe exactly what I do. And I was hanging around you a lot because I was trying to convince you, but you still remain unconvinced. So I'll the ultimatum is I can't be friends with you anymore unless you change your mind about these things. Um, it's
This is
wild. It's
it's
so
quarantine.
yeah,
That's what it is. And like so some people say we need to witness to these people. We need to share the Lord with them. That's true, but you can't be out on a limb all by yourself trying to get them saved, hoping they'll get saved so you'll have Christian friends. You've got to get locked in with people who are accountable to get you in your face and push you toward the Lord.
dude, that's crazy because they'll also give you the opposite message too, right? Like you that's why it's so inconsistent because you can easily find you could just pull out some passage of the Bible to support why you should be radical and out there, and even if no one's with you, like out there like witnessing to your friends and taking a stance for God. Like you've heard the flip side of that argument too. This one is just so like insular and protective, and ultimately it just goes, we don't trust you to actually take this seriously, so we want you to act like you do, be around people who say they do, but because we don't trust you to actually be able to, and we think you'll be swept away by the whims of the world, you have to um, take this seriously by a show of pageantry, because we think we'll just lose you too when we're trying to preserve our numbers. That's like, it's such a bad faith. It's low expectation of what you think they're capable of, masked in a language that says you're doing it because we trust you and because we want what's best for you. It's so fucking gross.
Yeah. And it's definitely like puts more of a like they're much more concerned about keeping the ones that they have as opposed to like getting new ones in,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
If you try to witness to your unsaved friends by
It's a war of
yourself
attrition.
and hang out with them all the time, you just end up getting weaker and weaker. They end up picking you off instead of you're drawing them into the kingdom of God.
And why? I thought God was more powerful than the ways of the world. Like that's what's crazy is like they act like it's a numbers game. Like, oh, if it's a 1-to-5 ratio, you're in a lot of trouble. 1-to-1, hanging out individually, you might be okay, but really a 2-to-1, like 3-on-2 is like 3 Christians, 2 seculars. That's really like the ideal ratio because you're more likely you pull them into your group, and then you're really a lot more likely to change their mind because the power of groupthink is really strong, which is why you're reading this stupid fucking book right now.
Yeah. You witness the people of the world, but you don't draw them in and let them be your closest friends.
God, I hate this.
The Bible is very clear about the relationships Christians should have with
Yeah,
unbelievers.
it's so clear.
It's not merely an issue of whether you should or shouldn't date them. The Bible is asking you to examine what you really have in common with them. How could you possibly think they could be your best friends when what's deepest in your heart is completely different than what's in their hearts?
The othering there too is pretty extreme, right? Like they're like a different breed of human is what this is getting at.
Think about 2 Corinthians 6:14 through 15 today. Chew on it all day long. Memorize it, meditate on it, and think about any friendships you may need to cut off. Have you gotten so close to some unbelievers they've almost or already influenced you? You may need to cut off these unhealthy friendships this week. Keep praying for the accountability friends God is going to bring your way. He's going to use your accountability friendships to change your life. It's
Well, I'm
funny too
glad you
because
and I
like,
found each other because, this is the accountability friendship that I need, and this is all that I need.
yep,
We
yeah,
keep each
I'm
other.
actively walling other people off.
Yeah.
And if something happens to you or if you start to slip, I'll just have to unalive myself. Is that what you're
As a
supposed to
live
say now?
mic. Yeah. There you go. Now, because you use that word, we're not going to get a little like flag on Spotify that says that this deals with dangerous topics and suicidality.
So real quick, last thing before we go here. Um, Day 5 says this is I guarantee this is going to be fun. Day 5, in your face friendships. Um,
All right.
Accountability friendship is about being willing to get in each other's face. This is not saying, well, I'll pray for you, brother. Some of your Christian friends may be involved in the Christian cliche where they act like everything is all right, but inside they're not at all. They spend so much time playing sports or video games or doing other activities, they don't feel very close to anybody else anyway. There are people who they say they're close to, but it's just because they go to the same youth group and sing Friends Are Friends Forever and have goosebumps together. But they
Yeah,
don't know
that song's
each
notorious for giving people goosebumps when they sing it in unison.
other. Oh, Michael W. Accountability friendships say, I'm going to get in your face and I'm going to let you get in my face. If you see anything in my life that doesn't line up with the word of God, I expect you to call me on it. I call them in your face friendships.
He loves that term. He's like, he thinks he coined a new term. And I'm surprised there is a little trademark symbol after in your face friendships.
He likes that, and he likes pick them off. He uses pick them
Pick them
off in
off.
reference to like the devil pulling Christians away all the
Nice.
time. It says, in these friendships, you give someone permission to hold you accountable, to ask how your quiet time was, what God spoke to you, and what's going on in your life. If you say, well, nothing really, then your accountability friend gets in your face and says, wait just a minute. Aren't you growing in the Lord? Don't you want to change the world? Your accountability partner gets in your face and says, listen, I will not stand for this. I love you too much to let you half heartedly go through your quiet times and coast through your life.
I like that it's masked in like this I love you too much as a friend thing when you're like like you're 14 years old and you're like I love you too much to let you coast through life. You're 14. Nothing you do matters. It's so inconsequential. Yeah,
Yep.
everything you say is probably annoying to people who are a decade older than you. Like there's very little like that you're going to do that like what does coasting even look like? Like not telling your friends at lunch that they need to give their lives to Christ. Like what the fuck does coasting look like at 14?
Yeah,
And what
like
should they be doing differently?
you should be making yourself a pariah at school every
Yeah,
day.
exactly.
Every day, someone should reaffirm how much they hate you because of how annoying you are.
You should be so annoying that someone decides that they are going to shoot up the school and they're going to ask you specifically if you're a Christian just to see how you answer that question.
Oh my god.
The
This
power of
was his
Christ compels
time.
school shooters.
This was his dance.
Uh,
Okay, this is an important section here. One sign of real maturity. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Is allowing one of your parents to be an accountability partner.
Mom, I took your JC Penney magazine and masturbated, and I actually came on the page by accident.
She goes, that's real mature of you to tell me that. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you for telling me so
thank you.
I can discard of it. You
Yeah,
know?
please show me which pages. I need to see what you were looking at in order to really hold you accountable.
Basically, you tell your mom and dad, or just choose one, that you want to give them permission to get in your face whenever they think you need it. They may get in your
That's what
face
kids want.
anyways.
That's what kids want is their parents just showing up and telling them how to live their lives. you'll be so close. I mean, can you imagine if like if your family dynamic was like that, where like you couldn't just be a kid, like you just be a kid and fuck off a little bit, and your parents would go, "We need to hold you accountable, because we love you too much." It's like you would hate your parents more
Yeah.
than anything, if they had that type of relationship with you.
Says they may get in your face anyways, but you're giving them permission to get in your face about anything they see in you that doesn't look like something in Jesus's life.
Oof. Like
So
hanging out with
basically, like,
prostitutes. The kid's like 14. He's just hanging out with hookers and strippers and shit. It's just like parents are like, "We're really proud of you, son. You're living your life just like Christ.
maybe
Keep
put
up
in
the
a
good work.
penalty system,
But just
like
to keep you safe, we bought you this dick cage, son. And
I
we
was
have
gonna
you
say,
too. And
dude,
it'll
you're like 12 years old. Like this is imprinting for sure. Like
yeah.
this has led to a bunch of findom situations. Like
Yes.
everybody who's paying an OnlyFans girl to scream at them and belittle their penis,
And
like
tell them how
it's
worthless they
because
are.
their parents were their
Yeah.
accountability partners.
Tell me you're disappointed in me.
Oh, day 6, what to talk about with an accountability friend, because true friendships need a cue card
Yeah.
to uh to keep
Oh
the
God.
conversation rolling. It's like Christian pickup lines. And then day 7 is just be friendly. In
This
case you
book is
forgot.
absolutely, and this book has absolutely set you up to do that. Like everything leading up to this is gonna make you such a fucking loser. No one will perceive you cutting your ties with people because they're not Christians as an act of friendliness. So this book has set you up for failure on week or day 7, whatever the fuck it is.
Says you've got to show that you're interested in somebody else's life and that you want somebody else to be interested in your life. It's like you basically have to show that you're interested in other people, even though your own ideological self interest governs every part of your relationship with
And requires you to break relationship with people who don't think the same way.
them. I'm just telling you, you got to be on fire for God, or I'm going to have to write you a letter and formally end this friendship. I want to witness to you, but I don't want to get picked off. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you can't. Yeah, the devil is just creeping behind every corner in every shadow. That's what is like wild about that mentality too. When you feel that way, it like you can find the devil in everything and anything when you're just like constantly expecting that. Like you're
100%.
setting up paranoia, like a low level PTSD later on. Like you can't like smoke a little weed without wondering like if someone's gonna see or find out. Like you just live in this like paranoid delusion when you're thinking about like the enemy about to strike constantly.
Yeah, 100%. It's very good for your mental state, for your relationships. I mean, it just goes hand in hand with healthy everything.
Yeah. And this book is setting you up for perfect relationships with your parents, your friends. It's beautiful. Oh, I appreciate it. This who wrote this? Was this Ron Luce or is this
This is Ron
associated?
Luce.
All
Yep.
right. Ron keeping it loose. Love that. Well, good for him. I'm proud of him. Would love to know exactly what he's up to today. Let's see what the most like recent date on his Wikipedia is. Nothing past 2015.
He probably has a Twitter, huh?
Um, yeah, nothing past 2015 on his Wikipedia page. He may have a Twitter. I'll have to check that out. Maybe
Maybe
we
he
can.
got raptured during the bankruptcy.
Yeah. Oh my god.
Let me see. I'm checking to see if he's got a Twitter. Boy, let's see.
I'm sure he does. I'm sure he just retweets a bunch of like bad political takes in like army recruitment videos. I bet he has a full
It's a
back
bunch of
tattoo of like
retweets.
an angel holding a sword.
Here's one. This is on May 13th of last year. According to Pew, median age of Christians globally is 30 versus median age of Muslims is 23 years old. What are the possible implications of this reality?
I'm sure anything that is in the comments or whatever that anyone else has like responded to is not based on anything true.
There's only one comment,
Okay.
and it says it's from an account called Dr. A. Fauci. And it says, Pew is a Jew statistic. And lo and behold, here I am. Here I find I'm a Hebrew after 2,000 a year. What?
What does that even
Oh
mean?
my God. Ron Luce sucks.
Yeah, he sucks. And he looks like he dyes his hair black, so also not cool.
Got the Creed look.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for listening, everybody. If you like the show, leave us a review wherever you're listening to it. Join our Discord, hang out in there. Next week, we have a really cool episode. We talked to one of our listeners who we met and got to know in the Discord, who was a part of a very strange church for a number of years. And it left like a very lasting impact on him. It's been called a cult.
The punk cult. That's the preview. I feel like it's you might even be able to Google it and that would show up pretty quickly.
Yeah, it's called Deliverance Bible Church.
Yeah.
It's in like the Dallas area. And the pastor is this guy that seems like he was kind of on the upswing, maybe headed towards some national prominence as a speaker and stuff. His name's Cletus Adrian. And he and his wife are lunatics. So there's a really good article in Topic. Go to topic.com. The article is called The Punk Rock Church That Could Be a Cult. And it's worth a read. It's very strange. Just the whole thing's really strange.
Yeah.
And, our buddy Jason, he was a big part of it for a number of years. And so he's joining us to talk about that and some of what he experienced. I don't know. I think you guys are you're going to find it really interesting. But yeah, check out that article on Topic. Again, it's called The Punk Rock Church That Could Be a Cult. And join us next week as we talk to Jason about his experience there at Deliverance Bible Church. So thanks for listening, everybody. And we will see you next time.